Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Healing Doorways. I am your host, Alicia Marcano. I am delighted and very honored to have this guest with us today. Her name is Salicrow. Sali is a witch, a druid, a natural psychic medium with more than 30 years' experience as a spirit channel, a teacher, a seer, who combines the wisdom of the Irish traveler and Blackfoot heritage with modern magic practices to help people deepen their connection with nature, spirit, and the elemental realm. She's also the author of 5 books, including The Path of the Elemental Witchcraft, a weird women's book of shadows. And that's what we are going to talk about today. I'm so excited for this interview. I hope you enjoy it as much as I will. Thank you. Salicrow, thank you so much for being here today. I am really honored to have you in Healing Doorways podcast. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I recently discovered you through Open Minds, this show with Regina Meredith in Gaia. And you were talking about your book of the Path of the Elemental Witchcraft.
Yes.
And I was so excited after the interview. And like a good Aries that I am, I'm very impatient. So I was like, I have to start listening to this book right now because it's not gonna get here on time. So I
That's
downloaded
right.
on I downloaded on Audible and I start listening to it. And
That's
this
actually the
week,
only book of mine that I recorded myself.
is it? Because I love when authors record their own books
Yes, that one I did myself.
and it's like 22-hour book too. It's
It's I would go down to my publishers. They had a recording booth and they had a house I could stay in, and I'd go down and I'd stay for a couple days, and pretty much it'd be me in this house, and I would take breaks to like get a drink or something, but I would just keep recording. I kind of marathoned it. So,
Wow. And I love when you can actually listen to the authors because they put all the essence and the stories, like it makes a big difference. So I
well,
appreciate
they know exactly what they meant when they were saying it. So they know how to put the pronunciation right and to the most emphasis in the right places. And yeah, it was
yeah,
fun.
no,
It was fun to do.
no, it is, it's really good. And obviously I have to get the physical book because it's a reference book. You cannot only
It
you
is.
cannot just hear it. It's good to hear it because they're like, oh, okay, I'll give this a go. I'll give this a go. And I'm always pretty busy. But now that I have the reference book, I can actually follow the instructions.
It has a great index too.
Yes, it does.
So making it an easy reference book.
Yes, it does. And I love that you because usually with this kind of subjects, people are really airy fairy and yeah, and you try to, but you go like really in detail. Okay, you need number one, you need this, two, you need
Yeah.
this, you need this, you need this, and then it's that's how what I love it. It's so
I think
practical.
it's because I've actually taught for many years. Well, I've been psychic my whole life. My great grandmother was my first teacher, and I have worked with the public in a psychic sense of one kind or another since I was 18 and I'm 55. So that's a lot of years. And I've been teaching since I was about mid 20s. That's when I started teaching. And, the thing I can say about the Path of Elemental Witchcraft is that I tested everything on people. So, I wrote that book in a way that I tell a story that's true and then I teach a technique. But when I was writing that book, I was also hosting, because I wrote it during the pandemic, I was hosting elemental magic workshops on my property. throughout that summer. So I tried all of the attunements because it was like I wanted to be able to prove that it wasn't just something that I could do, but also that anybody could actually do this if they put their mind to it, if they tried. And I think that that's where the step by step helps. It's not meant to be like you can't sway from this at all, but it really makes it clear, these are instructions that will help you to do this.
And I
Whatever that
love
is.
it.
There's so many things.
I love every that you make something something that we have to do every day, like cooking. It's like you can make a ritual out of
Yeah.
cooking, and how
Yeah.
you bring like so much mindfulness and presence in our lives. So yeah, it's been a real joy. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
I'm nearly finishing. I haven't finished it yet. I think I have like 2 more hours to go.
You know
So
what's interesting is I've had a lot of people tell me that they had both the audio version and the physical version, and that they were doing them together because it was kind of like being in school and having your teacher read to you and you're reading along in the book and you're like, oh, okay, if I want to pause here, I've got that written piece too. So it's been really fun to see how much it's affected people. It really has had great reviews, and really people have reached out about how passionate they were and how much it gave them the real basics to being able to create their own practice.
mm, yes, yeah, yeah. No, I love it. I love it. I love every bit of it, I think I was looking for something like that in my life because we live all glued to the screen and the distractions, and I was like, oh my gosh, so much noise around us,
There is.
and this book is like, hey, come back to earth. This is nature. You're part of
That's right.
it, and
And it was really important for me to give examples of how people could do things in urban areas too, because when we live in urban areas, we don't realize how much nature is even around us. But those resilient trees that are growing in, city
mm,
deserts and stuff, or the parks that we can go to, they can be amazingly powerful places. And I have been to and experienced some really amazingly magically awake parks in different cities. And I
yeah.
think that's the part that, finding that so that when we don't live in a rural area, we can still connect with the earth, even if it's through like our houseplants or our bathtub.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So everyone has that power within. We just have to allow it, make some space for it. So that's beautiful. And Sally, just a bit about yourself. You grew up with extrasensory perception abilities since you
Yes.
were pretty much born. What was that
Mhm.
experience like as a child?
Well, I tell people that if you grew up in a house with artists, you would probably do art all the time and it would seem normal. My parents were really young, and I say my parents were partying hippies, so I spent a lot of time with actually my great grandmother, who I adored. And my grandmother, even though she lived in northern New England, which is the Appalachian Mountains, she really practiced what would be considered granny witchery now, like Appalachian witchcraft. It was very similar.
Mm,
And a lot of that comes from the fact that the northern Appalachian Mountains is the same mountain range, and it had a lot of the same settlers. So a lot of Irish and Scottish influence with Native American and African American, and
mm,
all of these different things that blended in together, where magic was really practical. And they never would have called it witchcraft. My
mm.
grandmother didn't use the word psychic. I never heard it till I was like 12 years old. Instead, she'd say, sometimes you know things, Sally, or dead people talk to you, Sally. It's okay. And it was said in such a matter of a fact way that when you're a child, you just normalize it. I also had the benefit of the fact that I have a sister who's a year and a half younger than me. I have two sisters, but the one that's a year and a half younger than I am, we're incredibly close, and she's also gifted. So if I saw something that other people couldn't see, she could see it.
Oh, that's good.
So there, and so my grandmother. So there was this normalization to the point that when I went to school and teachers started talking about like imaginary friends, I assumed that the teacher was talking about other people, not me, because I
Ah,
knew that mine wasn't imaginary because my grandmother could see, my sister could see. There was, there wasn't really any doubt of that part for me when I was a kid. And I my first book, which I just bought back, my first book was called Jump Girl: The Initiation and Art of a Spirit Speaker. That was a memoir of my life, and I published that through North Atlantic Press, and then I have three books that are published through Inner Traditions, and I just bought back my first book. I'll republish it, so I'm
mm,
starting that process.
okay.
But that really covered a lot of, the experience of being a person who grew up with extrasensory perception, and not only having it, but having it be accepted, because there's a lot of people who have gifts, but they don't have the support around that gifts to
Yes.
trust it and develop it. I've been literally developing my gifts my whole life.
Mm,
Um, and started working with the public when I was about 18 years old. So really, even right from the start, it was just, first of all, I absolutely love it. So it's my life path. It's not just a job.
mm.
And I do it for fun. I do it for work. Um, I just do it all the
And
time.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And how your grandma helped you in that path.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it was one of the things I feel like it was the biggest gift. Like, like I said, a lot of people can be born with psychic gifts, but if they aren't nurtured and instead you're taught to fear them, then
mm,
I mentor people, so I have a mentorship program, and which is a one-on-one program in which I work with people around the gifts that they're looking to develop. And it's work for people to have to undo the limiting systems that have been placed into their life, particularly when they're children,
mm,
and things that they're taught to fear. But, like one of the things about elemental witchcraft and most of the way that I teach is that I do make it normal. Like, this is normal. And, I am a normal person, which is something that's really surprising. Like, I completely make my living as a psychic medium and an author, but primarily as a psychic medium.
mm,
And I've also was on a school board for 9 years. I know most of the business people in the town that I have my office in. I've been on town boards. I've had, because I'm I also really want to strive to normalize the paranormal and psychic experiences and all of that kind of stuff, because it is normal. So many people are having these experiences, and it's, bleeding into our everyday life. People are learning skills that are in the psychic field, and then they're thinking about, well, how do I use that in the job that I have? Like, how am I a better
mhm.
teacher if I develop my empathic ability? How am I better a nurse if I study Reiki? How am I, like, we're not just going like, oh, I want to learn some paranormal psychic ability stuff, and then I'm going to either open a metaphysical shop, have a podcast, or become a reader. We're saying, how do these abilities, how can they be applied to whatever we're doing?
Yeah, and that's so refreshing to hear. You know how many people I have interviewed in the podcast, and they have some gifts since they were children, and they just like, oh, don't say that, that's not true, don't say that, and they just being forcing themselves to kind of forget it, and now they
Yeah,
kind of coming back, and yeah,
there are a lot of people. So I've talked about psychic evolution a lot. I think that we've been going through a psychic evolution really,
yes,
and it's gotten sped up a lot. We've had so much amplification, and including big amplification of stepping into the age of Aquarius. But this is means that, I've read for people for decades, and now I see people, like the amount of people who are having psychic experiences themselves is huge. It used to be that if I read for 10 people, one or two out of 10 would be having a psychic experience, and then it was just mundane life kind of stuff.
Mm.
And, then about 2011, I saw that start to change. And then it
Oh.
just really ticked up, I believe, connected to the Mayan prophecy and
Mm.
the alignment of the solstice sun. Okay. So
Mm.
there's the
Mm.
trigger, just like the Age of Aquarius is another trigger.
Yeah.
And I literally started seeing more and more people coming with having paranormal psychic experiences, and these weren't people who were seeking it out. These were people who, they went to work 40 hours a week, and maybe they went shopping at Walmart on the weekend, and life was pretty mundane, but yet they're overly empathic. They had some psychic premonition, they've had spirit contact. And so I think one of the reasons why the Path of Elemental Witchcraft appeals to so many people is because it does normalize it.
Mm.
And it also empowers people to have these experiences in their homes and
Yes.
in their everyday life without, like, I just joined a coven and now I have to go do a ceremony every full moon. That's kind of like going to church. That's not for everybody, right?
Yes. Right.
Okay. But
True.
everyday magic, protection magic for moms who are worried about their kids, learning divination so that you can look into your own life and
Mm.
issues. That's stuff we all want.
Yes.
Um,
No,
yeah.
it's beautiful. You think this is happening, and I'll probably go a little bit off topic, because all this shifting of the planet into the 5D that is people are talking about it.
Yes, I think it's all connected. I think that that's what it means to, so that's what it means to be going through a psychic evolution. Is part of it is because we've reached a mass consciousness that can think outside the box. So let's think about how Wi-Fi has changed our thinking. You and I, where are you? Where are you right now?
Uh, Australia, Melbourne.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're in Australia, and what time is it?
It is nearly 10 o'clock, 9:50 a.m.
Okay,
on Friday.
so okay, and it's Thursday here at 7:30 p.m. at night. So you and I are not even existing in the same time,
Yeah.
or we're not in the same place. So
Mm.
we are literally existing in a third space right now. So the internet, its own way, has helped us to expand our ability to perceive the unseen world because we work in a system. Do you really know how the fucking internet works? I know I don't. I know how I imagine it in my head, but I don't
Yeah.
actually. But that concept of thinking about, like, we are in this other space together. We are, and that's a lot of what we're going to experience with moving into 5D is that people, because I also do like past life readings, parallel with life readings, and I do spirit communication. So I work with a lot of different modalities with people. And I really believe in parallel reality. And that's a lot of what 5D is about too, is that more and more of us are becoming aware of our other selves. We're becoming
Mm.
aware of part partial memories from other lifetimes. We regularly are talking about timeline shifting. And, like the example, like I open my cupboard 5 times and I can't find my cup. I open it the sixth time and it's there.
Mhm. Oh,
Okay.
yes.
But there are profound experiences that people are having where there's these shifts. And that's a lot of what 5D really is that our consciousness has to expand to be able to hold a broader view of reality. And that's where magic has worked way before science got there. With,
Mm.
like, well, you're in Australia, so even the indigenous people of Australia and working in the dream world or the dreaming,
Yes,
okay?
really.
That's really similar to the astral plane,
Mm.
to the places that we communicate with spirits in,
Mm.
all of this. What is that? Well, that's another space, just like the other space that you and I are communicating in at this moment. So, magic, especially practical magic, helps people to, one, build a vocabulary so that they can start understanding what they're doing. And it also helps people to develop trust in themselves. And like you said, this particular type of magic with a very deep connection to the fact that we are beings that are
Mm.
part of this genus locus that is our planet, this spiritual place that is our planet.
Mm.
Okay, we're
Yeah.
all part of this. Yeah.
Ah, I can listen to you all day. It's so
Thank you.
interesting. It's so interesting. But well, since we are here talking about elementals, trying to bring the conversation back to it. um,
Excellent.
how was your first experience with an elemental being, and how much did that change your life,
Oh, I
if you
can't really
remember?
tell you my first experience. Well, I can. So, my first experience that I remembered, I don't know that I actually realized that it was an elemental. I thought it was an angel or something else because my first experience happened when I was 12 years old and I almost drowned in a river.
Ah,
Um,
yes.
and it was in the White Mountains, so it's really coming off of a mountain, really cold water, big boulders. And my family used to swim there regularly, and there's this big pool with really deep water, and currents are always faster than you think they are. And
Mm.
I had been playing in the water, not listening, as my father said, like, hey,
Mm.
don't swim across against the stream or against the current. But I wanted to go up to this little area where there was this little waterfall. So what I know
Mm.
now is that water and waterfall areas also lack oxygen, so it's easy to get pushed under and not be able to resurface
Oh,
well.
oof.
Okay.
Scary.
And I exhausted myself. So basically, boom, the water took me. And I had my
Mm.
first out of body experience. I was drowning, but I was not in my body. I was watching my body drowning and having this really extended experience. And then my dad fished me out, and I had realized that something was in my body, thought it was an angel, thought it was, I didn't know what it was.
Okay,
But this is the second part of the story, and this is actually where the Path of Elemental Witchcraft came out of,
Mm.
is that I had worked with the element of water. That's my favorite element. I'd worked with it for many, many different ways and many different lifetimes. And I went to Mount Shasta in Northern California, which is one of the earth chakras. So it is recognized as being one of the energy points of significance on the planet.
Mm.
And it is an incredibly powerful place. Like weird shit happens there all the time.
I know. I want to
And
go.
people have spiritual experiences there, and it can be of all different kinds because basically it's an open portal. So whatever you're working with. So one of the times I went there, I went to this, it was kind of like a really like a camp spa, but it's one of the places that they had like a natural, you'd go and you'd soak in the heavy mineral water, you take a sauna and you go in the river. It was known though because it's one of a couple places on the planet that have both a white spring and a red spring. Glastonbury is one of the other places that has this. So
Okay.
the gardens there, and we went to the red well, which was really kind of nothing at all like Chalice Well, like as far as taken care of. But I had a
Mhm.
profound experience there where there was this reflective surface top, and we were toning, myself and some friends of mine, giving an offering to the water. And I realized that the reflection of myself was me, but it didn't look like what I look like now. Like my hair was a different style. It was some another image of me of how I had looked, but I
Wow.
was like, oh, this, I was like, whoa.
That's so
And
cool.
then it spoke to me and it said, I see you, Sally Crow, and I'll see you, Sally Crow. And I was like, whoa, I am totally like, my husband had to walk me back to the vehicle. We're like, I knew that that
Yeah.
also meant something more is coming. And so the next day, or maybe it was the day after, the group that I was with, which is some of my spiritual community that I'm really close with, we went up to an area that is known as Panther Meadows. It's a general area where there's a lot of springs that come to the surface. It's really considered a sacred site by the indigenous people. And when we were walking there, it's pretty dry, and so they don't want you in the fauna, I mean the flora. So
Mm.
like you have this rocked in area you walk through, and my friend Jules was behind me, and she suddenly said, Ea is the name of the Eternal One. And when she said it, I was like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, we should tone that and En together, which is it means no time, no space. So we're like toning together, and I'm really like getting loopy to the point where I'm like, I gotta stop until we actually get to where we're
Get
going.
there.
We get there, and I am like immediately like having an experience. My friend Jules was like, well, we need to open the well, which is this technique in fairy witchcraft. And I'm like, the well is open. We don't need to open anything. We're like,
I'm already
so I
there.
sit down. Right. I have this profound
Wow.
experience. And when I could open my eyes, the rest of the group I was with, there was 9 of us, there's 8 people standing around me like this because they know that whatever's happening to me, they don't know what it is, but I'm
Yeah.
having a moment. And what the moment was is that the water started talking to me.
Wow.
And it kind of was like this luminous being that I could see in front of me that was shaped with water. And it said, like first it told me that it was the spirit of water, and I'm like, you're the spirit of water of this well. And it said, yes,
Mm.
but more. And I'm like, you're the spirit of the water of Mount Shasta. And this is all happening in my head. And it's like, yes, but more. And then it told me it was like, I'm the spirit of water. And
Wow.
it told me, and then it started showing me all these times that I had worked with water. I mean, I have done water blessings on people and done water blessings for the water, all of this stuff before that, just things that I just ended up doing.
Yeah.
And then lifetimes of that. And then told me that I would work with water, that I would never drown, and
Wow.
um, that water would know me. Now, that doesn't mean I can go do
Wow.
stupid stuff in water. I'm very conscious of water. But one of the things it showed me was the last thing it showed me was when I was drowning in the water, and it showed me that what was inside of me wasn't an angel. It was actually the spirit of water that kept me
Oh,
from
wow.
drowning. So it was like this tremendous experience, but then it set me on this course where I already owned a wellness center, and I have my master's in 6 schools of Reiki, and had done vocal toning, sound healing for like 20 years. But I went home and I started working on literally talking to the water in people's bodies. Like I would be like, just remember what
Wow.
it was like to be healthy, or just remember, like talking about it like I'm balancing this. If we're this much water, then, and water can be programmed. I started diving into, the alternative science around water, like things like structured water and experiments that have been done where,
Mm.
so I was really getting a lot out of it, but it all came out of this. Now I got one little bit because I know this is a long story, but
That's okay.
I researched all of the names, so I ended up with these attunements, which are in the
Mm.
book, that people can use to connect themselves to the elements deeper. And the first one, each of them came from the elementals themselves. Um, but the names they gave me, I couldn't find. Like I would
Mm.
Google it, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I'm just going to trust.
Mm.
And it was a month before my book was coming out, and one of the people that I was mentoring was actually editing my book. She had been hired by my publishing company,
Mhm.
and which was cool because she'd been studying these things too. And then she wrote to me, she's like, Sally, you have to read this book. And it was called The History of Magic. and it's a history book. And in it, it described a Mesopotamian god whose name is Ea Enki, and I had a different spelling. So phonically it was the same, but a different spelling, and that Ea Enki was a Mesopotamian. So think pre-Egypt,
Wow.
a Mesopotamian water god. So here's where it gets even weirder.
That's
Okay, so I'm like, all right, if that's the case, I took Nagiazita, which is the name I got for the
the
earth elemental.
mm,
Okay. And when I looked that up, the first time I found nothing. But when I looked it up and I put the words Mesopotamian god next to it, I got Ningiazita, who was
wow.
a Mesopotamian earth god. Okay.
That's
So, like,
incredible.
yeah, and so three of the names I have been able to connect to
Mm,
Mesopotamian gods of the same element. Okay,
wow.
so I'm a big believer that a lot of the beings that we know have taken different shapes and forms and get called different names, and they're the same beings that overlap and all of this kind of stuff. But I had profound experiences with this, where it literally was acts of faith on my behalf with some of the stuff. Some of the stuff was like old hat, but the stuff that was being directly given to me by the elementals, like the attunements, I had to go on faith because I'm like, I can't find anything with this name until I had already been willing to not only put it in print, but it was way too far for me to call my publishers and say, oh,
And change.
hey, here's some more info. Okay.
Oh,
Because it was already in print.
yeah.
Um,
That's
so yeah.
amazing. No, that's incredible. So that each element has their own god, do you think, or uh,
Um, I think that what we call gods, what we call deities,
ladies?
they're beings, right? And what
Mm,
somebody might think of as a god, somebody else might still see as a spirit, but not necessarily a god. Um, I believe that those are some of the names that they've used. I'm not sure yet, like I'm rewriting my memoir, and part of what I'm doing, I'm going to add to it, not really rewrite it, but add to it and add more chapters. But even in looking at something that I wrote in 2018 and how much things have transformed, it's not that the things that are there are false, it's that there's more information that comes,
mm,
like there's always like, oh, and then I figured this part out because life is this big mystery for all of us. Whatever journey we're
yeah.
on, it's this big fucking mystery that we're like, hey, and then we get some other pieces. Yeah, so
Oh, so we have the name of the earth and the water. Have you heard of the name of fire elements
oh
or
yes.
air?
Yeah,
Yes,
so the name that I got, so this is all in the book, but so water was
because I
Ea.
haven't get to the fire element yet.
Okay. All
I'm
right. So
nearly there.
Ea, and then Nagiazita was the earth,
Yes.
and Alizah was the
Alice.
air, and
Alice.
Azarah is the fire. And then, my opinion, the fire attunement is really powerful. Like, it's one
Mm,
of the ones like where I tell people you can skip around, but if you have no understanding of magic, I might not jump straight to the fire
the
attunement. I
fire.
might do the other ones first.
Mm,
And yeah, I mean, I have a deep love for each of the elements, but I think we all kind of have an element that we lean into. So water is definitely the element that I lean
yes.
into myself. Do you have a element that you prefer?
Yeah, well, I have the air. The air. I always see
Yep.
myself like a bird. Like if I could fly, that would be good. And I also, and I read this in your book, and I got very excited about it. That I also been like very. For me, astral traveling is really easy since I was a
Oh,
child.
nice. Yeah.
So it's always uh, yeah, and then when you mention it, like, oh, the connection with air spirits is easier from the astral. So I got very excited. I was like, oh
Yes.
my god, so that confirmation of it. And I wanted to ask you something about that because for me, when I astral travel, I'm pretty much asleep, and it's after my deep sleep. If I wake up at
Yep.
5 o'clock and then I won't go back to sleep. That's usually when it happens, and I become lucid and I do stuff and go places and whatever. But how do you manage to astral travel when you are in nature, when you are outside or in the daylight? How do you do
Yeah.
that?
So I do have a lot of techniques in that for it. There's a whole section on
Mm,
building the astral temple.
yes.
Guided meditations and journey work are really the key for most people. Like if you've ever done a guided meditation, that's what gets you started. That's what kind of helps you to get into that place. And there's a lot of those things in the Path of Elemental Witchcraft.
Mm,
Um, Drumming works for a lot of people. I actually use my voice a lot. So, as I was saying, I've done vocal toning as part of my healing practice. Um, geez, like 27 years now. And I work a lot with Norse gods. And so I do Galder, so which is Norse vocal magic. And for me, when I
so
can
cool.
just know what I want to look at and then go in. And so there's a lot of instructions on it, but for people who are starting and they need something that's maybe a little more visual or maybe hands-on, then start with going to YouTube and looking for guided meditations and choose a voice that you like and something, a subject that you like maybe learning who your spirit guides are or your spirit animals. And you can even do that same journey over and over and over again until you get used to journeying, because really that's the next step. And in the beginning, a lot of times people do want to be guided, and there's a ton of free stuff that's available to us for that. Um, but the more advanced you might find that you just think about what you want to look at and put on some music. Because a lot of times I do a lot of my work in my bathtub. That is my number one temple, is my bathtub. I
Nice.
have a deep cast iron bathtub, and I have trance music that I listen to, and I almost always listen to the same album because it's easier. Just like that if you've done yoga, after a while you just get your feet hit the yoga mat and you relax. And it's
Mm.
because you've entrained your body and your mind to know that as soon as you put your feet on that mat, that this means this. So I don't listen to my favorite trance album if it comes on accidentally on my Spotify while I'm driving. No, that needs to go off, because my
I'm happy
brain
to hear
is trained that
that.
boom, it starts and I can go, "Whoa, where am I
uh,
going?" And sometimes I have a plan and sometimes I don't. So there's
mhm.
that experimental piece that comes with it. But there are some really good instructions in the Path of Elemental Witchcraft in the air book in particular. So that book is divided into four separate books.
Yes.
And I think I might have mentioned this to you, but I do want have something that I can share with you if you'd like.
Yes, please. Anything
Okay.
you want to share.
So
This is your
this is
space.
exciting because I think you're the person who told me that you have a pretty Spanish speaking audience primarily. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Well, my audience is a lot of Spanish speakers, but they also speak English. So, because there's,
Okay.
there's a lot of people living in Australia, people
Yep.
from South America as well. So it
Yep.
is, yes.
Yes.
Tell me about what's coming up.
So, so what's
Yes.
coming up is that in September, my
Ooh.
first Spanish book comes out, and it is the Book of Water. So I
Ooh.
have it to show with you too.
Oh, wow. La Bruja del Agua. I love it. Ah,
And like I said, this is through Inner Traditions. It's coming out in September, and I'm super excited about it. I have to be honest, I cannot speak Spanish, so I can't read it myself, but I am so excited because this is just the water book from the Path of Elemental Witchcraft, with a little bit different opening so it can be standalone, but it's really the same book. So for people who
Love.
are Spanish speaking now, this is available. And if this does
Yes.
well, then they're already planning to do the other elements, so people will be able to have all of them. I
Wow.
really love that they used the infinity symbol with the water because these water, and I work a lot with no time, no space with the infinity symbol and with the symbolic and magical idea of we can do things and send it into time backwards and forwards where we need it to be. So I'm really, and I have to tell you, you are the first person that I've shared
Yes.
this
Oh,
with.
thank you. What a great
Okay, so you get to
honor.
have that. And
Yes.
this is like a pre-copy. I went to an event at my
That's
publishing
awesome.
house, and they had just gotten them in, and they made a point of going and getting me a copy so that I can have it. I can look
Yay.
at it. I can look at it and be like, this is my book in Spanish.
Well, you know what? I'm going to read it in Spanish to see if the translation
Thank you.
is the
If the
same.
translation's good, thank you. And
Yes, because
also, I want to put it out there too, and this is more like I don't have, I live in one of the whitest states in the United States because it's in the far north. And to be quite honest, it's really one of the most liberal states. So it's not about, being
yes.
racist. It's just that most people don't, you got to be a certain hardiness to live here. But when they're like, "Oh, do you have all these Spanish communities you can?" I'm like, "No, I really don't, but I want this book to be able to reach that." So I'm just going to kind of put this out there to the universe that if
Yes.
other Spanish speaking podcasts are
Yeah.
looking, I am willing to talk about it because I really do believe that one of the core things that I've been using as my signature,
Mm.
since 2008 is spreading love. And
Mm.
that is my number one goal really is to spread love and spread awareness, love for the earth, love for other human beings, love for, other types of beings, everything there. And
Wow.
so the more that I can get the word out there, the better, because it's together that we're going to change the world. It's together.
Yes.
One of us can't do it alone, that's for sure. But a little bit at a time, we can make a difference.
And I think your book is going to be very welcome in the Spanish community because I'm not I don't know so much Spain, but I know South Americans. We are very open with all this. Um,
Yes.
we're a magical continent, really. Like the
Yes.
Peruvians, the Argentinians are magicians. The Peruvians have all the the Peruvians have so many UFO sites and groups
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
intraterrenal cities. They all open. I actually have a radio show for Mantra FM. It's an Argentinian holistic online radio, but it goes for every Spanish speaker. And the other people that have shows there is just amazing. Like they are so open for all this stuff. So I'm pretty sure that book is
Yeah, I
gonna
know
be
my publishing company that I've published through, they just bought a Spanish press.
okay.
And my book is one of the first ones that they
Mm,
are turning into Spanish. I know that they did like a South American tour, the owners did, and found that even with what they had and Spanish speaking books that there was a huge like
mm,
appreciation and applaud. Like they were
yes.
like, wow, people really want this. So that's, really exciting. And I think that the world is a magical place, and I'm always fascinated by that. And so through Gaia, I ended up with like I have seen clients in 32 countries. Okay, so
Wow.
like my first episode, the one on elemental witchcraft, when it came out, it just kind of went everywhere. And I have read for people in multiple South American countries, and you know, I'm just not really a linguist, so it's like,
You had other
one of the
gifts,
things
Sally.
I have
you have
other gifts.
yeah, you
I can
communicate with
communicate with people.
elementals.
That's right. I communicated other languages,
Yeah.
but not, but it's not my strong point. But
Uh,
I think it's like, I think it's a disservice. Do you know what I mean? Like people in the United States, we don't even learn a second language until we're already way into puberty and not willing to really focus on those kind of things. Do you know what I mean? Like we don't have that arrogance that comes with it sometimes keeps us from
well,
like there's a part of us like
you don't have the need either, I
we don't have well
guess.
that's the arrogance of it. We don't have to
Uh,
learn because we don't have to learn. And
yeah,
that's the
I
part that I
guess.
think like
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate, but I'm really glad to be connected to a publishing house that is saying, no, we want to make sure that this is like, it's going
Uh,
in all the places, right?
yes,
So,
honestly, because also in South America we used to the shamans, and the way
yep,
you learn with a shaman, you have to pretty much move in with your shaman and then just observe him and see what he does. But there's not like a clear instruction of like, hey, this is how you do it. Number one, number two, like you have to earn the
right.
your place first.
Yes. Yes. Well, and
And
the thing about doing it this way too is that the serious practitioners, the ones who seriously want to learn, are going to be the ones that read the whole thing. The reality of it is that a lot of people are going to look at the size of the Path of Elemental Witchcraft and they're going to be like, whoa. I mean, it's like 570 pages. It's a tome,
mm,
and that can be intimidating. I think that's one of the reasons why my publishing house wanted to break the books into four so that they
okay.
were a little more digestible for people. Um, but I think that we're in a time period where there are so many people who are teaching magic on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm not saying that all people who are doing that are this way, but there's a
Mm,
lot of people who are good at social media but really don't know
mm,
anything
yes.
about magic.
Mm,
Okay. And like I said, that's not all of them, but I think that if you're a person like whether it's through a podcast or through its writing books or a radio station or whatever it is you're doing, we do have valid information and we have put the time in and we have done the work and tested things, then there's kind of a feeling of responsibility to have that be available too,
mm,
because there's a lot
yes.
of fluff out there. And I'm not a person who's a gatekeeper against that either because the reason why is like even though some of it I'm like, okay, yeah, that's really some simple simplicity there, but we all
Mm,
have to start somewhere. And most of us actually do start with aesthetics.
mm,
We buy the crystals,
yes.
we get the moon earrings,
Mm,
we get some
mm,
candles, you know what I mean? Like
mm,
most people need that. And I kind of think that the Path of Elemental Witchcraft does that, but in a more kind of like homey and down to earth way,
I
where it's
love
like
it.
you
It,
can do this magic in your bathtub. You can do this
yes.
magic when you're making dinner. You can do
Yeah.
this magic,
With your
on a
chicken bones.
plane with your
Chicken
chicken
bones.
bones. Yes, exactly. I really did because like each book there has a three subjects are covered in each of the elements, which are communication, divination, and healing.
Mm,
Those three, I feel like there's so many ways to get to those. And then each book had like five subjects. So there's two other things that I cover in magic that are more unique to that element. But I think that that's where like yeah, I do have something about roots and bones in one of the divination sections because that is a legitimate form of divination. And the bigger point that I was trying to make with showing all these different forms of divination is that as a person who has been doing divination most of my life, um, when you really learn how to do divination, you can do it with anything,
mm,
so you're never in a spot like I can do divination when I'm in a plane looking out at the landscape. I can do divination when I'm sitting by a river looking at the way that the water's forming, or the clouds, or the way that the fire is changing shape when you're camping. There's so many
mm.
really simple ways. And you can do this in plain sight. People sitting all around you, and they're not even going to know you're doing it. So you don't even look weird or freaky. You're just gazing at the fire,
Yeah.
or you're looking out the window when you're flying. And at the same time, you are practicing magic.
Yes,
Okay?
and it's better than being on your phone, on TikTok or
Yes.
anything like that. And
Yes.
yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I did went the other day because I live in right like an hour away from Melbourne CBD, the Melbourne City Centre. And so I'm on the edge where I still have a lot of houses, but there's also a lot of trees. And I went to a park
Yep.
that I always drawn to go, and I start trying to be a friend of the tree. And I
Oh,
wasn't really
nice.
thinking about doing that way. I just went for a walk, but I was like, no, I'm gonna try this thing. So I did my saliva. This is me. Hi, tree. Like I didn't know what else to say.
Yep.
And then I grab us like, oh, I'll give you my hand. I can grab a rock. I'm trying to connect with you. I rock around and I clean it up a little bit around because there was some kangaroo poo
Nice.
and stuff. Um,
Yep.
yeah. So and I was like, okay, all right, I'll go. I brought this a rock because I thought it could help me connect with him on the astral plane, and I have to bring it to
Yep.
my bed because that's the only way I can
There
do
you
it.
go.
And then when I was walking back home, there was this m- big rainbow in front of me. And it wasn't even raining. And it was like kind of make of clouds, like because it was quite low. It's like, oh, is this is
Yeah.
this happening?
Well, I generally don't believe in coincidences. And I tell people
Ah,
that when you are developing your psychic abilities, you want to take the words maybe, kind of, and think so out of your
oh,
vocabulary
yes.
when you're having an experience because the universe is communicating with us constantly. And that's something that most people choose to disbelieve because we've been trained to disbelieve it. But
Mm,
once we start looking for it as proof that we're having an experience, you're going to start having more and more experiences because this is something that is real. And the thing is it is becoming so mainstream
mm,
that it becomes even easier and easier because, again, we're changing things by the collective having the ability to perceive it. Okay. We're giving legitimacy to every person who ever thought that some plant in their garden was talking to them
mm,
or that the animal that we saw when we were crossing the road was really a message for us, or
mm,
that when we are, sitting and gazing at the fire, that God is communicating with us, like that's something that most of us have had some kind of experience. And we are just breaking out of this illusion that has tried to tell us that those things are primitive, those things aren't real. And really, especially in South American countries,
mm,
it's more about trying to either demonize the belief systems or make it that this is something that makes people more primitive because they believe this way.
yes.
Okay.
The,
And the
mm,
reality is that we're also at the same time in psychology realizing that intelligence comes in lots of different forms, and that while somebody might not be, technologically intelligent, there are a lot of other forms of intelligence, including psychic intelligence, that ability
yes.
to communicate and perceive into things that don't exist. And um, one of the things I try to add in most of my talks with people is that I built my reputation in my business through word of mouth. And I
Mm.
live personally in a town of 500 people.
Oh,
Okay.
beautiful. That's so
I live in a
nice.
town of 500 people. I have an office in a town that's maybe got 7,000, 9,000. Okay.
Mm,
And I built my business by word of mouth. And when it came to getting a book, I literally I knew that I was going to write books because I had had an experience with spirit that really blew my doors open. And some of the stuff that was told to me during that time period, one was that I would write books, that I'd be on TV. I'm living in this town with dial-up internet going like, well, I'm not sure why I'm living here. But I literally said, like, if you want this, if this is supposed to happen, then somebody has to discover me.
Mm.
And I had a man, Robert Simmons. He is a big guy in the crystal world. He lives in New Zealand now. Um,
Okay.
he lived in New Zealand then, and but he sells crystals and all this kind of stuff. But he's from the United States and from Vermont.
Mm.
Um, he found out about me from a friend, and when he was in Vermont on business, he came to see me with his wife, and then he came to see me again, and then he invited me to do a spirit gallery at um, an event he had for a couple hundred people. And then the
Mm.
next year, he called me and was like, "Hey, my publishing friend is going to be about an hour and a half from where I live," and he was
Mm.
like, "I already told him about you. You need to go see him." I had only blogged. I went
No.
and was leaving for a big trip the week after, but I went and met with my brother-in-law who is a school teacher, and
Mm.
I came up with a basic outline, and then I went and I met with this publisher, and even Spirit got involved in that. Like he was already
Oh,
interested in me, he wanted to call his publishing house in California, couldn't get in touch with anybody there.
wow.
None of the phones, nobody was answering. He's like, "This is weird." And he's like, "Well, why don't you show me what you can do?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay." So I did spirit communication for him. And by
Mhm.
the time he got in touch with his office, had been crying.
Oh, wow.
He like was so moved that,
Wow.
and I had a book contract within a month and a half for my first book. And
So
he
sad.
even helped me. He was my personal editor, even though he was way past that point in his career. He was my personal editor for my first book. So
Mm.
these things came about because they were supposed to, and they
Mm.
wouldn't have come about if I wouldn't have ever believed. And I'm not saying that everybody's path is exactly the same, but I'm
Mm.
saying like we've been trained not to believe in ourselves. We've been
Mm.
trained not to believe our experiences. If I would have never been willing to tell people that, hey,
That's
your
what I
dead's
do.
talking. I mean, I had already been doing psychic readings for about 12 years for the public when I
Mm.
started doing spirit communication for the public. But it was all of it comes down to you first have to believe in yourself. You first have to believe in your own experiences. And that's
Mm.
hard. But once
Mm.
we can crack through that, we do start to experience miracles. We start to recognize that that rainbow that you saw after your offering to the tree was a sign of recognition
Mm.
instead of a coincidence. Okay.
Mm.
Like we can make anything a coincidence if we want to, but detectives don't believe in coincidence.
Yes,
So not
I
even just in
wouldn't.
the metaphysical world, the
Mhm.
detectives do not believe in coincidence.
Okay.
So I'm like, detectives don't believe in coincidence, scientists don't believe in coincidence. Well, they do, but they always want to check what that
What
coincidence
is
is and prove. Okay.
mm.
So in magic, we have documentation. That's why, the Path of Elemental Witchcraft is a weird woman's book of shadows. A
Mm.
book of shadows is a magical journal that
Mm.
we keep more like a college notebook than a diary. And that gives us the ability to go back over it, to leave comments about how well something worked or didn't work. We have
Mm.
things we can repeat if it did work well. We start to learn our own symbolism because we recognize that every time that we see that gray squirrel or that kangaroo,
Mm.
that this happens. And that's not the same thing it says in the dream journal, but that's what it means for me because this is what happens for me every time I see the kangaroo. Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
And we are our own best teachers through our own symbolic language. And that's the big thing that a book of shadows helps us to develop is what does your personal symbolism mean? What is it saying to you?
No, it is great, and it's been so refreshing to reconfirm things that I usually do, like what you do with the reading the clouds
Yep.
and like I know when I'm walking, because where I live there's a lot of snakes in summer,
Yep.
and when I see a snake pass my path, I know there's like a learning experience, a strong
Yes.
learning experience coming my way. I was like, oh, and something
Yep.
always happens. Maybe I'll create it. I don't know, but
Well, that's another whole complicated subject,
yes.
because magic is that too. It's, like in divination, it's really about choosing a path. So if something comes up and you don't like the way it's going, you might want to look for what is an alternative path. It might be hard for you to change that path, but it allows you to avoid or to navigate that challenging situation
Mhm.
easier.
Yes.
Okay, so like the snake could make you go like, wow, I have a challenging learning situation coming up, but now I'm prepared for it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now there's a
definitely.
part of myself that can say, I'm expecting this, so when it happens, it's going to be a little bit easier for me to navigate.
Yeah, no, it's been Sally, I could go on for hours with you, but I know you have to go back
Thank you.
to your
I
life.
do. I
But
do.
thank you so much for such a great conversation. I don't think I went through all the questions I have prepared, but I
That's
was so
okay.
happy to
I think
hear.
we went off on some other tangents, which is usually what I take people on, is tangents into the metaphysical world somewhere.
Oh, it is great. I love all that. And we're going to leave all your details on the description of this podcast. But where would it be easier for people to find you and to pre-order your book in Spanish
Right.
and
Okay.
English?
So my website is a great place to connect with me. I do not, but it will be. You just kind of gave me the key, like, hey, I got to get my assistant to put my upcoming Spanish book on my website.
Okay.
But Inner Traditions Publishing is my publishing house, and they have, like, for Spanish speaking, I'm sure that, like, Amazon or any kind of thing like that in Spanish speaking countries will also have it. Inner Traditions is a major publishing house that also goes through Simon and Schuster, but I'm not positive about all of the Spanish things. So I'll get a link and make sure that it's also put on my website. So if you just go to salicrow.com, there will be a link for the Spanish book there as well.
Awesome, awesome. That's all right. You had a bit of time. I think it would take about
I
2 to 3 weeks
do. Yeah, I
for
figured
the.
you're going to I got a little wiggle room. I'll
Yeah.
get my assistant on making sure that there's a link to the Spanish book added. And again, spreading that to, um, to other people in other languages makes me really excited.
And we are very excited to have that in our language too. And yeah, thank you so much. It's been a joy, and thank you for all the work you do to make this available to us, available to all the curious people out there that think it a bit crazy. This is
Nope, not
the
crazy.
proof that you're not, and there's
Right.
someone there,
And
and
soon this.
and soon that I can wait. Thank you so much, Sally. It's been a great pleasure, and I hope
Thank you.
every time you publish something in Spanish, we'll do another podcast. I would love to have you again.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too,
All right.
Sally. Thank you so
All
much.
right.